स्थापकाय च धर्मस्य सर्वधर्मस्वरूपिणे स्थापकाय च धर्मस्य सर्वधर्मस्वरूपिणे अवतारवरिष्ठाय रामकृष्णाय ते नमः। असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मामृतङ्गमय। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति। Let us offer our salutations to Sri Ramakrishna, the embodiment of all religions, the Supreme God incarnate. Let us pray to Him to lead us from the unreal to the real, to lead us from the darkness of ignorance to the light of knowledge, to lead us from death to immortality. Today's topic: how to be free from superstitions. It's really important to know how these superstitions generate botherations in people. In many cases, people become problematic. They develop some kind of mental disorders on account of these baseless superstitions. So, they affect the life of people in one way or other, whether people like it or not. To give one example, these superstitions keep on coming now and then. It is widespread. Throughout the world, you can see all these superstitions playing havoc in the minds of people. See, once I saw in an internet email, it says that you would get a fortune if you sent the same mail to a number of people within certain hours. If you neglect it, some misfortune would befall us. And people keep on circulating this. There is lot of superstition everywhere. To give one example, which I know very well, when I was in Bangalore, we had adopted poor villages for developing those villages. They were economically poor and they didn't have food to eat. Mostly they were all tribal people. No education, no health. Very miserable, terribly miserable life. Small hut, 20 people will be there. 20, literally 20. And no windows. Simply horrible. In fact, I should say, virtual hell in this world. That is the condition of the people. Broken cottages, broken roofing, children loitering in the street. So, naturally, these people will be attacked by all sorts of baseless dangerous superstitions. That's why Swami Vivekananda used to say, give education to everyone, that takes care of everything. Give top priority for educating the people. That's the best help that you can give in order to remove poverty. Educate them, they can look after themselves. Still we are yet to do that. People simply talk and talk and talk. 1% only they act. 99% simply talking. Well, that's the way. So, in one of these villages, what happened? One lady, she had a child, about 2 years old, young lady. She got diarrhea, nothing but diarrhea. And you know, the villages there, they try all sorts of native medicines, but it could not be stopped. One of our Swamis used to visit all these homes in order to educate them in a proper way. He found this particular lady was suffering from diarrhea, and man is not taking any steps to show her to the doctor. And Swamiji had to bring that lady to the Bangalore, and she was admitted to the hospital. The hospital people were known to us. They had given a standing orders to the hospital administration. Anybody coming from Ramakrishna Ashram should be immediately attended to, because they knew that we are taking care of the villagers, and anytime we will bring people, patients from there. So immediately this lady was admitted. Within 2 days, the diarrhea was controlled, and she was becoming normal. And then the husband, he wanted to take her back to home, and the doctor said, what are the steps to be followed in the home when he takes her back? So she went back, and probably the infection had not gone completely. So after a couple of days, again she developed that diarrhea. And because Swamiji would go weekly once or twice to the village, unless people inform us, we will not know what would happen. In this particular case, the husband contacted the village priest. My wife is suffering from this kind of motion, loose motion. All sorts of things are going on. What shall we do? The priest immediately said, you offer your goat. He had, poor man, he had one goat in his home. You offer the goat to goddess. I will do some special worship. That will go. She is possessed by a ghost. So they indoctrinate like that. They simply put unnecessary thoughts. And he tells that husband to bring that lady deep, because all these villages were situated in the forest, to bring her to a particular place deep inside the woods. And this husband took her wife along with some other, his friends also accompanied, all through the way from her home to the place where the priest was supposed to perform the worship. They were beating her like anything, beating with twigs. And poor lady was screaming, and she was crying. What are you doing? I am terribly weak, and you are beating me. No, you are driving away the ghost. See, that fellow had told some ghost, she has been possessed by a ghost. All the way they were beating. By the time the lady was taken to the place, she collapsed. In the meantime, the message was sent to us that a particular lady who was admitted to hospital was feeling better, Now again it has relapsed. Please come immediately. The Swami took the special medicine. It should stop instantly. He reached the village night at 12 o'clock in a jeep. There was no regular road, to go to that village. But then he goes to them that there is nobody in the home and nobody knows where they have gone. And Swamiji had to inquire, please show me the place where I can go and see them. Finally he came to know that some villagers told that lady has been taken there to that particular place, etc., inside the woods. And Swamiji went there. By the time he went, the goat had been sacrificed. The lady is lying dead there. And poor fellow, with a small child, 2 years old, extremely poor man, you can imagine the condition of the suffering. All this is because of the dirty superstitions. Dirty superstition. Anyway, I don't have to tell too many things about the superstition. Each one of you know about it. And but we don't give proper attention, and we don't really analyze and think properly. So we come into trouble. Some very common superstition is there, that also I would like to tell you just before starting how to get rid of these superstitions. They say, all sorts of superstitions, not necessarily what you are hearing or what you are doing yourself. There are superstitions in the dream superstitions. They get all sorts of things in the dream, There is a person, suddenly he would come, Swamiji, I want to meet you. Are you available? Here in Chicago. Why, what's the matter? No, I want to meet you urgently. Is it possible? Yeah, please come. Come at 11 o'clock. You come. What is the matter? Nothing but narrating his dream. Such a foolish thing. Just by narrating, he feels a kind of upliftment for himself. He thinks that his dream is so live. And I told, why do you unnecessarily dwell upon the dreams? It's all mental aberrations. All through your life up to this time, you do all sorts of things, you hear all sorts of things, you think all sorts of things, so they leave impressions on the mind, and these impressions get mixed up, and in the form of thought waves, they project on the mind. So, I had to tell him, this is all simply superstition. Never believe any dream. And it is not easy also to interpret the dream. Not at all easy. You have to be a very highly evolved spiritual person. Even then it will be difficult for you to interpret the dream. What to say of the ordinary people. So anyway, there is one general superstition. Dreaming of a cat is generally unfortunate omen, and it shows treachery as well as a run of bad luck, just by seeing the cat in the dream. Yeah, whatever it is. Cats attacking you represent enemies. If you succeed banishing them, you will overcome great obstacles and rise in fortune and fame. All sorts of things. Seeing a crow in your dream means disappointment in everything, grief and misfortune. Suppose you see a crow. All these notions, have entered into the mind. So how can you be free from suffering? Tell me. Even if God comes and stands before you to show His grace, you will not be free from suffering. Unless you eradicate all these dirty, harmful superstitions, there is no way. Again, suppose you dream of receiving a letter from a friend. It foretells their arrival or that you will hear from them soon. Various types of dreams are there, as I said in the beginning. So, Swami Vivekananda, he is our teacher, a personification of strength. There was no trace of fear in that person. If any difficult problem or difficult situation comes, people ordinarily criticize their fate. Oh, my fate was like that, so I am suffering. Swami Vivekananda remarks, what's the use of going to stars for explanation? See how he puts the word. They may have little influence, but it is our duty to ignore them rather than hearken to them and make ourselves nervous. This I lay down as the first essential in all I teach. Anything that brings spiritual, mental or physical weakness, touch it not with the toes of your feet. These are the words of Vivekananda in the Complete Works, volume number 8. How strongly he uses the words. And these words come through his lips spontaneously. You must know, Swamiji was a fan of realization. Was very fortunate to be blessed by Sri Ramakrishna, who got the vision of Sri Ramakrishna, who got the vision of God, who could see Divine Mother Kali, who could talk to him by the grace of Swami, by the grace of Sri Ramakrishna. When Sri Ramakrishna told him, go, pray to Divine Mother to remove all difficult circumstances, situations in your home. She will do whatever you ask for. And Swami Vivekananda had such tremendous faith in Sri Ramakrishna. He just immediately ran to chapel. When he went there, he could see Divine Mother smiling and receiving him very affectionately. Well, my dear child, you have come so eagerly. What do you want to ask for? Sri Ramakrishna himself had to do 12 years tapas to realize Divine Mother Kali. Swami Vivekananda got instantly by the grace of Sri Ramakrishna. And what did he pray for? He said, oh Mother, what should I pray? Please give me Viveka Vairagya, Jnana Bhakti. Give me discrimination, dispassion, knowledge, devotion. That's all I want. Well, you will have them, undoubtedly. Sure. And when Swamiji came back to Sri Ramakrishna, Sri Ramakrishna asked him, did you ask for to remove all these terrible situations in your home? Oh, Master, I forgot to ask anything about my personal I want. I just asked like this. Give me Jnana. Go ask. So 2 times, 3 times he sent. All the 3 times, whenever he stood before the mother, he would pray for Jnana. Because Swami's mind was so perfect and purified heart, he could not pray for anything else. So, a person of such realization is speaking these words. It is not simply anybody talking. It is not like that. It is not anybody talking. It is words coming from man of realization, who have lived the life of spirituality. Spirituality, real spirituality means there is no place for superstition, no humbug, no nonsense. People all create stories and demonstrate so many other things in order to show off their spirituality. None of these things. Spirituality is to be lived upon. It's not for showing. It's for living. You live the life. People will understand by themselves. You don't have to publicize through the media. So, Swamiji said, anything that brings spiritual, mental or physical weakness, touch it not with toes of your feet. And Swami Vivekananda, dealing with this subject, superstition, he tells a very nice story. Very nice story. In fact, I asked one of our devotees, do you know this story? Swamiji has said this. Oh, Swamiji, I don't know. What? That means you are not read anything about Swami Vivekananda. First, when you come to Vedanta, first thing you should do is read life of Sri Ramakrishna, life of Holy Mother, life of Swami Vivekananda, and then their teachings. Immense spiritual knowledge you will have, immense. Well, Swamiji has said this. This also comes in Complete Works, volume number 8. These are this talk was given by Swami Vivekananda in San Francisco, condemning superstition. In what way superstition brings tremendous suffering to the point of death. So he says a story. There was a astrologer. Once he came to the king and said, as soon as he looked at the king, the astrologer made prediction. Well, you are going to die in 6 months. Did anybody tell like that? Even if you were to die, should you tell before a man you are dying? Anyway, he said that. The king was supposed to be very strong, who would protect the whole kingdom, who would fight the enemies. Such a person was terribly frightened out of his wits and was almost about to die then and there from fear. But he had a very good prime minister. He was a very clever person. Many times these kings were saved by these intelligent people who would live with them. So, this prime minister told the king, sir, why are you believing these astrologers? They are simply fools. But the king would not believe him. So, the prime minister had to think of a plan how to make the king understand what he said. So, the prime minister invited that astrologer. Please come immediately. We want to talk to you. And the man came. Then the prime minister asked him, well, probably you may be wrong in your calculations. Please do it again and tell what exactly the position. So the astrologer began to make calculations and said there could not be a mistake in his prediction. But still, because the prime minister told him to do calculations, he went through the whole of the calculations again and then said, my calculations are correct and the king is going to die within 6 months, in 6 months' time. The king's face became livid. Then the Prime Minister said to the astrologer, "Well, I will ask you a question. When do you think that you will die?" And the astrologer immediately said, "In 12 years. Then immediately the Prime Minister drew his sword and separated the astrologer's head from the body and said to the king, "Sir, do you see this liar? He is dead this moment. He said he would die in 12 years. And Swamiji makes further remark. Although there may be a grain of truth in astrology, etc., they should be avoided. Be strong. Go beyond all superstitions and be free." And next he makes a statement very, very important. See, I hope all of you are trying to practice Vedanta in your own humble way. But try to understand what exactly Vedanta means. Then you will enjoy it million times better than what you have been enjoying now. Swami Vivekananda says, in conclusion he says, superstitions are all materialism because they are all based on the consciousness of body. B-O-D-Y, body. No spirit there. Spirit has no superstitions. It is beyond the vain desires of the body. Even when Swami Vivekananda was a little boy, he did not like superstition and he was totally fearless. You know, there is an incident in his boyhood days. See, that's why I keep telling people to read life thoroughly. Reason is, the incidents in their life, they are all lessons to us. There are teachings to us. Their life itself is a teaching. Now this Vivekananda, when he was a boy, he used to be called as Narendranath. Narendra. Swamiji's previous name. Pre-monastic name. Narendra. He used to climb a tree in the compound of one of his friends to gather flowers and also to play on the tree by swinging to and fro, head downward and somersaulting to the ground. All sorts of play they used to do on the tree. Along with his friends, Narendranath was playing like this. There was an old man, half-blind grandfather of the house. He became annoyed. He didn't want this noise of the children, and how to stop them. So he thought of a plan. So then he said to Narendranath and all the boys around him, "Well, please don't go near the tree anymore. The tree was haunted by a Brahmarakshas, a demon, the ghost dressed in white, that broke the necks of those who climbed the tree." Narendranath didn't react, he simply listened politely. But when the old man was out of sight, Narendranath again began to climb the tree. Let me see what the Brahmarakshas would do. His friend, who had taken the words of the old man, one of the boy's friends, seriously remonstrated. The other boys were panicked. They were terribly afraid of. But Narendranath laughed at them. He gave a big laughter and said, "What an ass you are. scolding. Swami Vivekananda has done scolding the boys. What an ass you are! Why? My neck would have been off long before this if the old grandfather ghost story was true. If the ghost story were true, my neck would have been already gone. But still I am living without anything, without any damage. Like this, if you study your life, how many superstitions day in and day out. Sometimes you get disgusted. What sort of life is this? You are totally bound by superstitions. Ordinarily, people are bound by some sort of superstition. When we declare a particular superstition and discredit it, we have found another irrational belief that suits us better. So getting rid of superstition is therefore a Herculean task. It's not an easy matter. Swami Vivekananda, whose X-ray eyes penetrated the core of the problem, has given us many wise guidelines how to deal with the menace of superstition. Swamiji's ideas point out how the Advaitic perspective is the best laser that can remove the scales from our eyes. Swami Vivekananda carried on a vigorous battle against superstition. He was ready to give, Swamiji says, he was ready to give 10,000 lives if 20 persons would give up their superstition. Computers volume number 2. His references to superstition can be broadly classified into two categories. Those in which he denounces specific forms in which superstitions are manifest, caste regulations, for example, and those which deal with superstitions in general as a human phenomenon. We shall focus on the second type of superstition. We shall discuss Swami Vivekananda's conception of superstition, his idea of their causes, his account of the relation between religion and superstition, the effects of superstitions, the remedy and the goal of man versus superstitions. It is interesting to note that his conception of superstitions is quite in line with the trend of this century thinking on the subject. What is Swami Vivekananda's conception of superstition? His conception of superstition is that of a belief which is incompatible with reason. He declared, again I am quoting Vivekananda's works, we need reason to drive out all old superstition. A true belief as against a superstition is one that stands the scrutiny of reason and passes the test of truth. The test of truth is that it makes the believer strong in the sense of helping him gain an appropriate orientation to his condition and thus deal with it boldly and effectively. In other words, a true belief acquaints a man with his suchness of things. A superstition, on the other hand, distorts the nature of the world in the perception of the believer. It's a cobweb in the brain. What nice words, appropriate words Swami Vivekananda uses. Superstition is a cobweb in the brain. A true belief has to stand not only on the scrutiny of reason, but also verification in personal experience. Again Swamiji's words. Thus, reason and experience are the twin complementary touchstones against superstitions. Vivekananda deems that belief in a doctrine without realization of its truth in personal experience is also a superstition. Similarly, Swamiji asserts that speculative theories of science which have not yet been verified in human experience are little more than superstitions. It thus warns us against the priests of science. Galileo's experiments on the Pisa Tower illustrates the appropriateness of Swamiji's insistence on the twin criteria of reason and experience as proofs against superstition. Aristotle had settled long ago, understandably on the basis of impeccable mathematical reasoning, that when two balls of different mass are dropped simultaneously from above, the heavier one would strike the ground first. Galileo's experiments disproved this very proposition based on reasoning but without an experiential foundation. Again, personal experience which has not been subject to the scrutiny of reason is no guarantee against superstition. Vivekananda has clearly dealt with this aspect also. While he discusses superconscious experience, he sharply distinguishes it from superstition. He admits the validity of superconscious experience, which is prima facie inaccessible to normal consciousness. Nevertheless, Swamiji insists upon founding it on a proper rational basis. He warns against the dangers of stumbling upon the superconscious state without such a safeguard. He boldly points out that along with their discovery of supreme truths in the superconscious state, some of the great men of the world carried some quaint superstitions also because of the failure to subject them to the critical scrutiny of reason. Swami Vivekananda equates faith in the old traditions without inquiring into its truth, faith in the old traditions without inquiring into its truth, with superstition. He equates it with superstition. He asserted that many great men believed in many such superstitions and could not shake them off. Thus, any belief, whatever may be its source or validity elsewhere, is a superstition if it does not stand the scrutiny of the twin complementary criteria of reason and experience. By reason, Vivekananda meant that which underwrites the warrant of generalization from one occasion of inquiry to another. Causes behind superstitions. What are the causes? Why do superstitions arise and prevail? Swami Vivekananda admits that human nature by itself is prone to superstitions. He has said, it is not their fault. It is all weakness of the brain. Swami says this complete words. In other words, man is prone to superstitions by virtue of his psychophysical constitution. However, he has latent spiritual resources which, when they are activated, can enable him to overcome all superstitions, get rid of the cobwebs in the brain, and gain an undistorted vision of his true condition. When ordinary human nature is exposed to the stresses and strains inherent in the human condition, it succumbs to superstitions. When the blow comes, we find that we must beg for help. We believe in all the superstitions that ever existed. These are all the words of Swami Vivekananda. Swamiji also recognizes factors that differentiate between individuals with respect to their proneness to superstitions. They are weakness and hopelessness about the future. Though these two factors are interdependent and as a rule together constitute a vicious circle, the former has its locus in the subject and the latter refers to the condition of his environment. Thus, subjective proneness and the exposure to the objective stresses inherent in the human condition together precipitate the flight into the genesis of superstitions at the individual level. Vivekananda recognizes the distinction between individual superstitions and collective superstitions. Individual superstitions are described as defense mechanisms in the parlance of modern psychology. It refers to eccentric superstitious beliefs among individuals which would not be favorably looked upon by the members of his own culture. Vivekananda refers to these beliefs as the vast mass of superstition that is innate in every human being. The culture of a collectively invariably maintains a perennial stream of superstitions. The culture of collectivity. Vivekananda variously refers to them as ancient superstition, ancestral superstition, class superstition, city superstition, and country superstition. How nicely he deals with these subjects. All this you can find in volume, Computer volume 2. The difference between an individual superstition or defense mechanism and a collective superstition is that whereas the former would not be favorably looked upon by the other members of the group to which the individual is affiliated, the latter would be encouraged and belief in them would be reinforced by all the members of the group. The former can be easily detected by one's neighbors. The latter can be detected, if at all, only by a foreigner or by one who can manage to disabuse himself of them and look at them with the eyes of a stranger. Again, between the two, it is more difficult to eliminate the latter even after they had been detected. In fact, every culture instills a package of superstitions into the children born in it as an integral part of its acculturation process, and the innate psychic inertia of human nature helps to carry on and perpetuate this stream of superstitions into the future. Vivekananda observes, any new thought, especially of a high kind, creates a disturbance, tries to make a new channel, as it were, in the brain matter, and that unhinges the system, throws men off their balance. Now, coming to religion and superstition, Swami Vivekananda was aware that religion has been alleged to be the source of superstitions in India. But he made a sharp and valid distinction between the text and the context of religion. Text and the context. He argued that Vedanta is founded not on dogma but on experience, the tested and accumulated experience of seers. The propositions of Vedanta are open to rational scrutiny and to personal experiential verification to everyone, whatever be his stature or culture. Swamiji argued that superstition in India was social rather than religious. In fact, he discovered in the eternal springs of the Vedanta a spiritual medium for the socialistic regeneration of India. In other words, he sought to make religion a weapon against the evils engendered by social superstitions. The Swami has declared that any proposition of religion which has not been personally verified by a follower in terms of his own reason and subjective experience remains a superstition. For as hypothesis to be verified by one who cares in his personal experience. He had scrutinized for himself, with his reason and in his experience, many of these propositions and had found them to be true. He was convinced that any and every human being can gain what he had attained. The effect of superstitions. Acceptance of superstitions is tantamount to selling yourself to your own mind and losing one's authentic moorings in one's orientation to the world. In other words, resort to superstitions is an inauthentic mode of being. Though resort to superstitions may help one gain a respite from the stress of the immediate situation, it does not lead to a proper resolution of the problem. In fact, it may even aggravate it. Eventually, superstitions make one mope and desire all sorts of impossibilities. They also create morbidity in the mind, make it weak, so that in course of time it will be almost impossible to receive truth or live up to it. Superstitions are detrimental to the realization of the ultimate truth of Advaita and the transcendence of the human condition. Conversely, one who has realized his oneness with all would no longer harbor superstitions in his mind. At a more mundane level, superstitions retard individual, social and cultural development. They petrify the individual and inoculate him against change towards better orientation to his environment. All these are words of Swami Vivekananda. They provide a false rationale for legitimizing oppressive and stagnant social structures. They also block the diffusion of innovation in a culture. Eventually, they bring about the decadence of a whole civilization and also constitute the symptom of such decadence. As Hannah Arendt, 1958, as he has pointed out, superstitions are the sign of alienation of the community from the world. About eradication of superstitions. Though Swami Vivekananda was against superstitions, he was too keen an observer of man, society, culture and history to declare that they could be completely eradicated. He was aware that the tendency to succumb to superstitions was too deep rooted in human nature and too widespread to dream of an utopia for a millennium. We should be free from them. He points out, we may talk big, become philosophers and all that, but when the blow comes, we believe in all the superstitions that ever existed. Again, he also refers to Buddhism, which drove superstitions away for a while, but soon itself became full of superstitions. These are the words of Vivekananda. He was also aware that the most errant superstition and the highest philosophy really have a common aim, in that they both try to show the way out of the same difficulty, and in most cases this way is through the help of someone who is not himself bound by the laws of nature. Vivekananda also cautions reformers against drastic and direct attempts in eradicating superstitious beliefs and behavior engendered by them. He states that though the old ideas may be superstitious, these are often nuggets of gold and truth around the mass of dross. Before attacking the superstition, the reformer must ascertain if he has discovered means by which to keep that gold alone without any of the dross. Though Vivekananda reckons that it will take 1,000 years to displace superstition with Vedanta around the world, he believes that individuals can get rid of them as they grow up spiritually. This proposition may sound paradoxical, but it is true. Whoever comes into contact with a message from one who is above the laws of nature can find his way to liberation soon. But such realized souls are few in number. Vivekananda's reckoning on the score of superstitions is consistent with his overall approach to normative social change. He advocates education, which focuses primarily on change in the individuals and not drastic and direct change at the collective level through legislation or institutional reform. The history of Iran during the last quarter of a century, when direct interference with traditional beliefs and way of life of people was experimented with by a modernizing elite, attests to the wisdom of Vivekananda's approach. In Iran, impatient efforts at quick reform provoked a vehement return to the past. Vivekananda deemed that Vedanta, the conscious knowledge that all is one spirit, is the only unfailing weapon against superstitions, says Swami Vivekananda in Complete Books, Volume 5. He was also convinced that it is the only weapon that can and must be used both in the East and the West. Jnana Yoga, the method of inquiry and analysis, is the best tactics to be adopted in the battle against superstitions with the weapon of Vedanta. Now finally the goals before us versus superstitions are to become aware of the mass superstitions that have been instilled into our head since our childhood and the amount of evil it does or can do, and disabuse ourselves of them. To prevent the promotion and propagation of superstitions, why let people fall into all sorts of superstitions? Why make life miserable? To work for a frame of mind which will never resort to and harbor superstitions. As already indicated, the human mind resorts to superstitions in the face of the stresses and strains inherent in the human condition. These stresses and strains become salient in what the existentialist philosopher Jaspers describes as boundary situations. Vivekananda himself refers to them as adamantine walls beyond which our rational inquiry cannot penetrate. The remedy lies in fortifying and strengthening the human psyche to face the truth as it is. We must learn to sustain ourselves in an attitude of suspended judgment while facing uncertainties, and not to go into darkness and yield to weaknesses and superstition when we cannot realize the truth immediately. We must always remain open to new experience and never close off the gaps in our understanding about the world with patches of superstitions. If we close our minds, we will never get out of the human condition of bondage. Vivekananda warns against accepting even the laws of science as true once and for all. Law is, after all, a mental shorthand to explain a series of phenomena. We must not let law become a superstition, as something inevitable to which we must submit. Swami Vivekananda says in the works, had Einstein accepted Newton's laws as true once and for all, he would not have been able to propound his theory of relativity, which helps explain phenomena more adequately and comprehensively. Now, what is the philosophy that will ever keep a man open to experience, help withstand uncertainty, and maintain his balance in the face of a new wave of thought? Swami Vivekananda is categorical that Advaita is the only system
which gives unto man complete possession of himself, takes off all dependence and its associated superstitions. It is only the perception of divisions and limitations which makes us selfish, frozen, and resistant to change. The ideal man is one who is forever actively interacting with his environment and is on a trajectory of lifelong learning. The termination of the trajectory is the point where the individual personally verifies in his experience what he has initially accepted as an article of faith, his ultimate identity with the universe. True to his Advaitic tradition, Swami Vivekananda firmly believes that one can realize this truth here and now. Thereafter one is immune to superstition forever. So, the final conclusion is that one should strive to realize the truth. And once you realize the truth, then you will no more be bound by any superstition anymore. So, let us be cautious about the things going around and how these superstitions affect our lives and how imaginary fear and all sorts of negative thoughts bring us terrible suffering. So you become aware of the fact that these superstitions really cause more suffering than anything else. So we should try sincerely to get rid of these superstitions by reasonably thinking and trying to experience the truth. That's the only way to be free from superstitions. Thank you very much. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma Vidyushavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. May the Lord protect us, may He nourish us, may our knowledge be fruitful and enlightened, may we not hate each other. Peace be unto all.